Hi guys, thanks and welcome back to my channel. I'm just Megan. I am Megan, just Megan. Living with arthritis and other musculoskeletal or musculoskeletal problems, however you say it. But the main thing being living with fibromyalgia. And so therefore, you know, chronic pain. And like so many of us out there, it's also an invisible condition. I don't look, I'm sure, I do not look unwell. Other than I have to use a neck pillow in this chair, and you see that I'm wearing some sort of gloves. These are my compression gloves to help with the arthritis in my wrist and hand joints. But other than that, you would not know that I was dealing with fibromyalgia. You wouldn't know to look at me that I'm waiting to be seen by a rheumatologist to rule out some other possibilities that I could have on top of fibromyalgia. And that's the problem, really, isn't it? That it's invisible. And it's hard to believe sometimes when you look at somebody and you speak to them. Sometimes it's hard to understand if you don't live with chronic pain or you don't know anybody with chronic pain. It's hard to understand how it is affecting someone else. And I get that because until I was struck with it full blown, well, let's just say I had an injury 6 years ago, and one of my lower spinal vertebrae basically prolapsed, or was pushed out, bulged out, however you want to think of it. And no, I wasn't doing anything exciting or like super cool. I was bending up and down, taking clothes, dry clothes, out of our tumble dryer. And it just, that was it, the final straw. Repetitive motion. The doctors say that I probably have had others beforehand that were smaller, that didn't cause such significant pain. So, who knows, right? But being a woman in her 40s and already having had two pregnancies that came to terms, I've had 2 kids, how your hips sit changes after pregnancy and childbirth, or after pregnancy and having a child, because both mine were C-section. As you get older, how your weight is distributed in your body is different. So for us women, especially as we hit our 40s and our mid-40s in particular, all that weight that we put on, even if we are hourglass shaped like me, or if we're shaped rectangular or pear shaped, or whatever, inverted triangle, whatever the shapes are these days, we tend to have the weight automatically go to our abdomens. So having that happen, and on top of IBS, everything shifts drastically, and they suspected that it was only a matter of time before the disc finally did bulge out, and that's what happened. However, it was apparent that the ongoing pain of everything else that was happening at the time, I had no idea what was causing it, because it wasn't just the pain in my lower back. It was pain in my tailbone, pain underneath my butt cheeks when I sat. So, you know, if you sit down and put your hand underneath a butt cheek, you'll feel like you're sitting on a bone. Whatever that bone is called, I can't remember what it's called. Yeah, that was hurting on both sides. Same with the femur at the front of the body, under the thighs. You know, I would have tingling and pins and needles through both my legs, all the way down to my feet, through my arms. And they determined by 2015 that in fact it was fibromyalgia. So, but all through that, I didn't know. I couldn't tell what was fibro, what was the spinal injury. And as the spinal injury started to settle a bit, I realized, yeah, I can tell the difference now. Because fibromyalgia just means pain of the soft tissues. So anything muscular, like your tendons, your ligaments, your muscles, when you get pain in that and it's all over, that's fibromyalgia. But I knew that my joints were also causing problems, and they discovered in the same summer, oh no, sorry, not that summer, in 2017, I think it was. Yep, I was told that I had arthritis in the base of my thumbs, both sides, and probably through my fingers and my wrists. So, yay. But I also feel like constantly is like my rib cage is doing, like going, squeezing in on me. There's chest pain here constantly, all across the collarbone, all down this bit here where the ribs meet, as well as in the tailbone, and like I said, the bones in your butt cheeks that you actually put weight on when you sit. So, hence, a rheumatologist to figure out what the heck is going on. So, but to look at me, you wouldn't know that. And, I was just realizing today that as hard as it is to understand chronic pain or chronic illness when it's invisible, when it's not obvious, when you look at somebody and they seem to be okay, I think what's even harder is when on top of the physical symptoms, we also deal with mental health symptoms. It's common, when you have fibromyalgia and some other similar conditions like ankylosing spondylitis or axial spondyloarthritis. A lot of times those, or AS for short, those conditions you also can have brain fog, and you definitely get it with fibromyalgia. Not everybody, but most of us have it. Okay, so that's one thing, to constantly go through life trying to keep things clear, trying to remember what the heck did you just say, or what did you just remember, what did you just forget that you were doing. And, we can joke about it, a lot of us can find humor in it, but there are times when it gets worrying because you're having a harder and harder time remembering things. I know for myself, if I manage to make let's say a doctor's appointment, they'll text me. I'll save that text until after the appointment has happened, and I'll get something in the post, and I'll put it in my phone, and I'll put reminders all over the place. And even then, sometimes I worry and I go, what if I forget? So I also not only deal with brain fog, but I also deal with quite extreme anxiety, and also I deal with moderate depression. So I do take medication that does help manage it. It does not get rid of it completely. And that's the thing I thought was going to happen. When I was finally given some antidepressants back in December of 2015, my anxiety levels were unmanageable. I was like through the roof, I couldn't cope with anything at all. My emotions were a complete disaster. Think of somebody who was going through the worst PMS possible as far as emotional up and downs, times it by about 1,000. And that's where I was at, And it wasn't good. It wasn't good for me or my kids or my husband. So I was given sertraline, which has really helped with managing the depression. And the other thing it's helped with is it's helped me with some of my anxiety. And I kept thinking, oh yeah, the anxiety, I won't be ever anxious ever again. And of course that's not true. I'm not nearly as anxious as I used to be. And I'm trying to learn how to manage with things a lot better. But it's still there. It's still there. And of course, that drives everyone else completely nuts. But like, for example, okay, both my kids are in college. One's 19, one's 16. And they get themselves up They get themselves up, they get themselves ready. The older one gets to college on time, no problem. The younger one likes to leave as late as he possibly can get away with. And that gives me anxiety. And my stomach knots up, and I can feel the IBS kicking off. And I'm trying not to be like that, just for an example, okay? But I also know it's hard to talk about, you know. People are worriers. I've always been anxious ever since I was a little girl. You know, we did move a lot. Maybe that was part of it. I don't know. But I've always had anxiety. Unfortunately, when I hit my teens, it triggered, for me, it triggered eating disorder and really crappy body image and really bad self-esteem. Now, when I had my back injury, of course, I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't go to my weekly workouts. And my first thought, my first concern was not, am I ever going to be able to walk properly again? It was, oh my God, if I can't go to the gym, how fast will it be before I get fat? Because you see, I hadn't been eating right. I had been eating as little as I could, working out mad amounts of times, pushing my body beyond what it could handle to try to be this tiny, thin something that I was never meant to be. And I know that now. And I accept that I'm not going to be some skinny, straight as a stick person. That's not me. That's not how I'm meant to be. You know, I might have inherited my father's high cholesterol, but I seem to have inherited my aunts on my dad's side. I seem to have inherited their figures, you know, as far as hourglassy, which is great, you know, not a problem. I can live with that. But, you know, it did take me physically losing a large amount of my mobility to actually go, it's okay if I don't do this. And the reason I'm talking about this is because it's still hard for me to not do everything. I still want to be the one who gets all the laundry sorted, gets all the meals cooked, gets all the housework done. And I know in my head I can't do it. And there's a part of me that is like, if I ask someone else to do it, they're not going to do it the way I like. And then what? But what I have to realize is that the world's not going to come to an end, right? It's not going to suddenly stop spinning around. And it's hard, and I'm not there. Let me just say, I'm not there. I'm a little bit closer to there, but I'm definitely not completely there. And I'm sharing that because for those of you out there who live with anxiety, I totally understand. We want to be in charge of everything, have a plan and a backup plan and a contingency backup plan. And we need everything to happen according to our checklists. And if it doesn't, we get all, for me at least, I feel like I'm getting all twitchy, you know. But I'm trying to let that go because it doesn't help anyone, and especially not me. You know, as I said, the antidepressants are great because they've been helping me manage the depression. Thank goodness. And, you know, if you need to take medication, it's okay. Nothing to feel ashamed of. If you are managing doing other things, great. That's fantastic. And I hope it all helps. But, you know, the hard part about having a chronic illness, especially if you have a chronic illness and let's say anxiety and chronic depression, is that it is invisible. And it is hard to see. And, you know, I don't want to ever be a burden. We, as a general rule, don't want to burden anybody else. So it's really hard for us. For me, anyways. I assume it's the same for the rest of you. But it's hard for me to ask for help because I don't want to become a burden to anybody. Which I know in my head is ridiculous. That's what you do with family. That's what you do for people you love, is you help and support them. However, it doesn't mean it's any easier. And so part of my anxiety is not only the fact of, oh, how am I going to get this done? I can't do any of this stuff. Physically, it's going to just cause more damage and it's going to hurt. But then it's like, yeah, but I'm afraid to ask for help. And I guess I wanted to share this in the video to say that it's okay. I mean, I'm trying to get through that and say, hey, actually, you know, my older son's great. He's like, hey, do you need the dishwasher emptied right now? Yeah, sure, great, thank you. I can vacuum if you want. You know, he's always finding things that he can do to help around the house. And the younger one, honestly, I usually have to ask him. However, if I do ask him, I know he'll step in and help. And my husband has unfortunately been very sick for the past 6 weeks with various infections and viruses. No, it's not the coronavirus. And so, you know, he does what he can, but he also works full time. And by the time his day is done, he's completely drained, which makes sense. So I guess what I'm saying is people are there and they will help, and it's okay, you know, to ask for it. And it's also okay if you're like me and you still feel guilty asking for it, even though you know that's what you're going to need. So I guess I just wanted to share this to say, for those of you who don't struggle with any of this, you know, try to talk to the people you know who have chronic pain or some kind of a chronic illness, because chances are they're probably struggling with depression of some degree and anxiety, you know, because all of a sudden we're not the person we used to be and we can never go back. And usually when you get something like this, it's brought on later in life. It's not something that you're born with, so it's not as though you had a lifetime to adjust to it. It usually, when it hits when you're older. And all of a sudden, the things you could do, the you know, even the way we do holidays, we have to factor in, well, can you guys get a wheelchair around there? And how close are we to, say, the beach or the pool at the place we're staying? And how easy will it be for me to get there? You know, will I need to bring a crutch along? Stuff like that, right? Because all of a sudden these are things that I never had to think about. And now suddenly, oh yeah, I got to think about this now. And it's hard. It's hard when you have to let go and give up who you were before to become who you are now. And I don't know who I'm going to be, but I'm hoping that who I am now is helping me to get there. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. I just wanted to share this because this is how I've been feeling over the last little while, and you're not alone. I know I'm not alone. I know other people are out there who struggle through this too. And like I said, if you don't have chronic pain or chronic illness, but you know someone who does, just, you know, make sure they're really okay. Offer to do stuff. And sometimes if you say, hey, can I get you anything? They'll probably say no, they're fine. But sometimes you'll have to just insist because, again, anything like me, you don't want to be a burden. You want to save up those moments where you really need to ask for help. And you don't feel like you don't want to waste them on something silly like, oh, actually, could you get me some water? Right? But anyways, trying to make it through day by day. And I hope you guys keep making it through day by day. And yeah, I support you guys. You're not alone. And you know what? Whether we want to be or not, we are a community. So just trying to offer my help, and hopefully this is something that you find helpful. I hope if you like the video that you'll give it a thumbs up, and I hope you'll also subscribe. that's it for me for now, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys are able to enjoy the rest of your day. And I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks, and take care for now.